Good morning. You're on OttawaDesigners.com. We're here with Dan Bertrand, my husband, who's going to be discussing asbestos. How are you this morning?
I'm great, and thanks for finally having me on the show. It's a great pleasure to be part of it.
Well, I've been asked by so many clients lately that have discovered asbestos in their home. What do I do? All these things. So I thought, I have the expert at home. Why not bring him on the show and share what is asbestos?
Absolutely, I'm glad to share some information.
Thank you. What is asbestos?
So, asbestos is a naturally found mineral and rock found throughout the world. It was originally called the magic mineral due to its properties, its fireproofing properties, its bonding properties, and it was mined and extracted to be used in numerous construction products that are typically found in your older homes nowadays. They, of course, later found out that this magic mineral was, once it was disturbed in a dry state, the asbestos fibers cause severe lung conditions, including mesothelioma and, of course, cancer. So, since that discovery, there's been a big push to try to remediate and abate all the asbestos from, commercial properties, homes, etc.
Excellent. And which homes are typically the homes that have asbestos? What years are we looking at?
So usually a good rule of thumb is anything built before 1978, there is a very high likelihood that there would be some sort of asbestos found inside the home. Anything that dates after 1978 up to about 2004, you can suspect that there may be some form of asbestos inside the home. And typically anything built after 2004, you shouldn't really have any concerns with asbestos. Now that doesn't mean that there will not be asbestos. There is a possibility your contractor, if he had a stockpile of it, may have possibly used it because the law stated that it could not be manufactured anymore, but if it was already in a manufactured state and they had stockpiles of it, it could still be used. So I've even seen, in someone's home, a box of floor tiles, and they've asked us to replace floor tiles in the house. And they say, hey, we have a box of floor tiles that we've had here for 15 years. And I look at the box and the first thing it says on it is asbestos containing materials.
Absolutely. So that leads me to my next question. What other materials in the home have asbestos? Where can we find asbestos in the home?
So you can find asbestos in almost all building materials found throughout a home. So typically most common materials are your asbestos floor tiles or your vinyl sheet flooring. You'll find those in older kitchens and bathrooms, sometimes in basements, areas like that. Walls, plaster is a big thing. Your plaster walls and ceilings, decorative plaster is always being renovated, is deteriorating over time. Typically, you can find asbestos in that. There's usually asbestos in a plaster because, again, they used it as a bonding material. They really wanted that plaster to hold and bond. So when they manufactured it, they put a percentage of asbestos in it to kind of hold everything together. There's also drywall joint compound. So a lot of times people say, oh, my whole house may have asbestos in it. It's not specifically the drywall. It's the compound that they use to cover up the nails and to do the joints. So sometimes that's found in the drywall joint compound, and that needs to be remediated, obviously, if you're doing some sort of renovation to those walls. Another big thing right now are your popcorn ceilings, your stippled ceilings. Everybody is modernizing their homes, and one of the things everybody's trying to do is to get that nice flat white ceiling.
Absolutely.
So having your general contractor just come in, give you a quote, say, hey, I could scrape this off, no problem. It's highly recommended to get that tested because that is a very fibrous material, will release a lot of dust. And if you have asbestos and you've created an asbestos problem in your home, it's going to cost you a lot of money to abate that. So it's always worth, spending a few dollars up front, getting testing done, getting all your I's dotted, your T's crossed, and, go from there.
Absolutely. And that's the question that I'm asked often is stipple ceiling, popcorn ceiling, how do we get rid of it? So now say a client comes into a stipple ceiling. What are the steps that they would go to? How do they get a hold of you? Can they remove this themselves? Can you tell us about that?
So just to give you an example, if we're talking stippled ceilings, what you typically do is you'd have a contractor come in, you probably tell them, hey, I want to remove this stippled ceiling. I want to scrape the stipple and get my flat ceilings. A lot of contractors will tell you, if they're familiar with the asbestos regulations and what may contain asbestos, the first thing they're going to say to you is, have you had this material tested? Yes or no. If you haven't had it tested, typically they're going to recommend that samples be taken from the property, sent to a lab for analysis. Once you get that analysis back, if it comes back clean and there's no asbestos in it, you're good to go, continue on your renovation. If you have a positive hit for asbestos, and in Ontario, the regulation states anything over 0.5% asbestos is considered an asbestos-containing material, then you should be looking at having a professional abatement company come in, give you a quote to do the abatement, and then proceed with the abatement. There's always more cost-effective ways as well. People always ask, because it's an expensive process, are there other options? You can always encapsulate. So again, with stipple ceilings, you do have the option to put a drywall ceiling on top of it. So basically what you're doing is you're wedging that asbestos-containing material between two drywall ceilings, and that's considered a form of encapsulation where it should not break apart and should not disturb and become airborne throughout your home.
So there's a solution for everything.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So what are we looking at cost-wise if we are looking to have some asbestos for a room, say, removal or a tile floor?
So we get asked this question all the time, and it's very hard to give you an exact number, but asbestos jobs can range anywhere from about $500. That's going to be a very minimal job. You're talking about coming into a little powder room and maybe removing, 30 square feet of floor tiles from that area, and cleaning up the area. You lock it down with glue. You make sure everything's cleaned up properly, and you get out of there. We do projects in excess of $150,000, $200,000, and that would include that'd be a complete gut of a home.
Yeah.
That has, let's say, plaster walls and ceilings throughout 2 stories, and you're gutting everything back to the studs.
So this is something that you definitely recommend getting tested if you're purchasing a home or you're looking to do any renovations to a home. Having someone come in and do a survey or a testing to see if there is asbestos would be something you'd recommend, correct?
Absolutely. It's a great investment. Again, if your family lives in this home, you guys spend a good part of your time in your home. The last thing you want to do is to undertake a renovation, have this beautiful renovation to only find out that during your renovation you caused a significant asbestos dust problem throughout your home, issue throughout your home. Exactly. And then you have to spend a tremendous amount of money to clean up the problems. So we always recommend, if you have an older home and you're undertaking a renovation, spend a little bit of money up front, get the testing done. Testing doesn't cost a lot of money. It's a competent person that comes to the home. They come and they take the samples, they bring them off to an independent lab, they're analyzed, you get the results back. If you have asbestos, you go one route. If you don't have the asbestos, then continue on with your project.
That's excellent. There's a solution for everything. If there is stipple ceiling that could be encapsulated, if it doesn't need to be removed, there's options. But making sure that you test it is number one for your health. So thank you so much, Dan Bertrand, for answering our asbestos questions on OttawaDesigners.com. We're going to have you back again for sure to discuss mold in the home and a few other issues that could arise in a home. Thanks
Absolutely.
So much.
Pleasure to be on. Thank you.
OttawaDesigners.com. Thank you.
Bye.